And the music is ending, Boyd. It's time for us to talk. Good morning.
Good morning, Carol. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. Welcome to episode 16.
I know, I love it.
I'm going to refer to this one now as episode Sweet 16 because I have my friend Chris Redmond on with me. I call him Chip. So, Chip Redmond, good morning. How are you?
How are you, Boyd? Hi, Carol.
Doing great. Good.
Nice to meet you.
So, for anyone who has attended any of our webinars or watched a podcast or heard me speak in public, I almost always tell my story about how I became a business loan broker, and it was because the bank told me no, and it was through the process I went through of buying a small business a few years ago. And in that story, I often refer to this broker who took the time and listened to me and gave me his time and helped me identify what I wanted, what I didn't want, and ended up helping me buy that first business that I referenced in the webinar, and then later helped me sell it 4 years later. And so that man is Chip Redmond, who's with us today. The famous,
famous or infamous?
Famous.
Oh,
Real
famous.
famous.
Yes.
That CPR business that he helped me purchase and then sell, he got to autograph one of those dummies, the CPR dummies, when we closed on the sale. So somewhere out there's still a Chip dummy floating around Florida, getting his chest beat every single day. So,
And great.
Chip is out there.
Chip the dummy. So, yeah. So as we talk all the time about entrepreneurship and getting funding for startups, to buy a business, etc., we thought today let's talk about buying a business versus starting a business. We do a lot of talk about startups because we handle so many startup companies. But like my wife said that fateful day, honey, to say basically, I've had enough of your startups. How about this time we buy a company that actually has customers and revenue? I thought, wow, that's really a great idea. And so I spent a lot of time on Biz Buy Sell. Spent a lot of time looking at the offerings that Chip would send to me via email once or twice a day. And so, just based on gratitude, I wanted to have Chip on with us today and give him a chance to be exposed to more people and more people who may be looking to buy a business as opposed to start a business. And Chip, let me just ask the first question: how did you get into helping people buy and sell businesses? What led you to becoming a broker like you are now?
Actually, strangely, youth sports is why I'm here.
Really?
I love that.
Carol's a soccer mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, one of the dads of one of the kids was a business broker.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I was able to interact with him because of our kids playing sports. And, I was ready to purchase my own business. So I had a million, Boyd, how many, conversations that we had? I had a million questions.
Yeah.
And, basically because of youth sports and coaching somebody's son, here I am. But I got here because I was ready to buy my own. And, Mike crushed my hopes and dreams like I've crushed other people's hopes and dreams. But, now I look at it a little differently. I look at it like I went through what you're going through. And I think I can understand a lot more people because honestly, where I wasn't able to buy my own back at the time, my expectations were too high and I didn't have enough money. You and I talked many times about money up front,
all the time,
money in the middle of a deal, and post closing, funds.
Like the majority.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really cool when you rewind it, kind of your volunteering or things that you've done, how you can connect things back. But yeah, it's because of YMCA youth soccer.
Awesome.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
soccer.
I did not know that.
Yeah, Coach Chip, man.
Coach Chip, love
I
it.
know nothing about soccer.
That's great. I have 2 soccer players and 1 coach at home. So soccer coach as well.
You do. Carol, you've got a question.
Yes. Chris, I'm not familiar with Chip, so I'm going to call you with Chris. Tell us about a time which you realized, okay, yes, this is part of me. This is what I'm going to continue to do.
You mean the business brokerage side?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So entrepreneurs, I like to say, kind of have an itch, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
for me, yeah, well, no, it is. It's weird. Like, I think groups of people tend to kind of, get attracted to each other, right? I think it happens with entrepreneurs, and for me, just still kind of being in the group, being in the mix,
Hmm.
being involved, helping people do. I don't want to say what I wanted to do, but that's kind of really why I'm here, right? But it helps me sort of scratch that entrepreneurial itch. I've had, um, my wife will make fun of me. I've had side jobs over the years, right? The little hustle here and
Yep.
there.
Hmm.
Oh yeah.
I even talked to somebody the other day. I was in the window tinting world for a little while, and he came in. He had a window tinting business that he was looking for a valuation on. I'm like, yeah, I know all about that. I was in it for a while. I did it for 3 years while my kids were in school. So it's kind of neat how that all spins together and connects. So
Oh, that's
yeah, but that's
cool.
really it. That's why I stay here, because it sort of continues to scratch that itch, and it's really cool to be part of the turning point in people's lives, or major points.
Hmm.
Sometimes we forget that.
Yeah. Well, and I think Carol and I experience a lot of that. The same thing is, especially when we get somebody funded to buy a business or to start a business. That's just, gosh, we love it.
Yeah,
We
that
love
that
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 win.
childlike excitement,
Yeah,
right?
really. Oh
Yes.
yeah, there's high fives all around. Sometimes cake. We like to
Yeah.
celebrate.
And we
I
wish
mean,
we can travel everywhere and just go there for their ribbon cutting, but we can't.
Not all the time.
yeah, we had a real. Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say we had a really neat experience the other day where we actually typically we do not have closings at our office, and because just timing wise, and typically we need a lawyer. We're at a lawyer's office, but we happen to do it here, and it was in the middle of a sales meeting for us, and buyer and seller both got to ring a bell that we have in the office,
Nice.
and the childlike kind of smiles on their faces was really cool,
Yeah, because they're
really
both
cool.
they're both equally happy, the buyer and the seller on that at that moment.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
in this situation, the seller, they were going up to New Jersey. They were going to be with their grandkids. They were moving into their retirement phase, and the buyers, they were moving to Orlando. They were just having kids. Like, they were spitting images of each other, and it was really cool to see them sort of cross paths. And we I don't want to say we see it every day, but it's awesome.
It's
It's awesome.
awesome.
Rewarding. Yeah.
That's cool.
Mhm.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So the entrepreneurial itch and the fact that, birds of a feather flock together and we tend to start businesses on the side or buy them. It's always been kind of my feeling that it's been easier to start something on the side and maybe it grows into something, maybe it doesn't. It's harder, but maybe better to acquire something existing that has clients and revenue. And I've done both recently and have good results to report on both. What's your sense? I mean, there's advantages to buying, of course. There's that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, have a team. And I think you get that team when you buy something. But that's my default assumption is it's easier to start something. Do you agree with that or have a different viewpoint?
Well, yeah, I'm a business broker, so I got to take the point that we always side on, right?
We
Yes.
need to buy one.
But well, yes, actually. But let me tell you why, and it kind of hits me over and over again because of what I'm dealing with on a daily basis. What you're buying is that confidence in the reoccurring revenue that it has, right? So when you're purchasing an existing business, we have historical data, we have proven models, we have a team, we have things that are established. We try to limit the what ifs, and Boyd, we're always going to have what ifs, but we try to limit as many of them as possible.
Hmm.
And really, what you are buying is that assumption for the reoccurring revenue for 2 to 3 years down the line. And that is what we're based off of. Now, I will flip that over to the other side. There's nothing wrong with a side hustle, and at the end of the day, it's about time and effort. And the cool thing that some people forget is it's all about whether or not you can make money, which is where the two actually come together, right? That I live in a world of profitability, and if you have a side hustle, if you're making money great. That's awesome. If you're not making money in either of those two, it doesn't matter.
That's
So
right.
at the end of the day, you know what? It's all about whether or not you can make money and whether or not your time, it's worth your time doing it. So I hate to say it, I'm going to lean towards the broker side first, which is buy the existing. But at the end of the day, I'm going to say whatever works for you, because we're all different, and it's whatever scenario you're in your life and whatever, kind of drive that you have at that given time. So, both. I do like, again, depending on the point in time you're in, when you do a startup or where you're ever doing something small, you can kind of control it. You and I have talked about the absentee scenario. You have to be in it full time when you own a business. You wear many hats. And when you're doing a side hustle, you can either turn it off and turn it on. That's a huge advantage to that kind of thing. So when you buy a business, man, you're in it and it's on, and she's full throttle. You know
It is.
that.
Yep. I do. And I think as I, continue to ponder the question in my head, I think back to when we bought the CPR training center, how nice it was to walk in and I had a paycheck instantly. I had a paycheck, as opposed to the years or months you spend building a side gig to where it can support the family. On day one, there was enough money to support the family, and that was such relief. That was during COVID, and who knew what was, people were struggling to even work. But that was a real good suggestion my wife made, is how about this time we buy something that's already has clients and revenue. So yeah, I think I
Yeah, I
agree.
mean,
It's probably better
cash
to
flow's a big
buy.
deal, right?
It is, yeah. But not everybody can be in that situation. So I think that's why there's so many startups. They don't have the
And
money or
again,
the
that's
time or the patience to buy.
right, and that's cool, right? You may have an idea and you may want to test it.
Mm-hmm.
But our world is beyond testing. Our world moves into the proven. So that's again where things are cool, right? Everybody, I started a few things because I felt the need, and I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why I did it, but I did it.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't always pay the bills, and give you some support and some
Right.
security for
Right.
down the line.
Yep. Yep.
Absolutely. And we always talk with Boy that anyways, there's every day there's a startup, there's business growing, there's like if the economy is great, there's business just
People start
starting.
businesses. That's
Yeah,
right.
and but if the economy is bad, it's still we can
People
see
start
new
businesses.
businesses
That's
starting
right.
every day.
Yep.
You
Yep.
just see the shift in types of businesses based on the economy, right? And we're seeing that now. So it's always going to shift, but certain things aren't going to stop happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Chris, is absentee ownership a myth for you?
Yeah, I mean, come on, it really is.
That's what everybody wants.
Everybody wants it. Of course, I want one. Why not? Right? It's again, no matter what, there are some scenarios where you're very minimally involved. Like I would love to change the term to where there's a minimal involvement in there with a parentheses on the end,
Mm-hmm.
because there are some where very rarely does the owner get involved, but they are still involved. Some are easier, and but yeah, no, it's tough, and it's really hard because it's all about what that business owner before has done or what you have done to put enough things in place and systems, people, systems, management, for that to be able to run on its own. And sometimes that actually dictates the size of the business as well, because the minute you start having managers and assistant managers and things like that, your business size have gotten higher. So I also think that the absentee tag needs to be adjusted based on the size or the marketplace size of the business.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely.
So how many, if you could guess, how many of the businesses that Transworld has listed now, or the number of businesses that Biz by Sell has listed right now, are owner operator type jobs, as opposed to a step or two removed where you're not necessarily, you're the owner, but not so much the operator, like the kind I've been looking for so long. How many would you think are owner operator?
When you say owner operator, like what are we talking on hours and involvement kind of
Like
thing?
I am the business.
Like a one man band type of deal?
2 man, 3 man. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
I would probably say, 40 to 50% range is in that realm. Yeah, and at that point, you're probably, $500,000 business or less,
Hmm.
in that range.
Hmm.
It's a pretty high percentage. And, to flip that over to the other side, the absentee side, where you've got almost no involvement on the owner side, it's probably only about 5% of the businesses that
Hmm.
are out there.
Much harder to
It's
find.
it's small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That leads into Carol's next question about
Yes, and this
ownership
one
and
I can't wait to hear because each experience is different. But at what size or point do you really buy a business and not a job?
Again, it's back to that whether the management is in place, whether the systems are in place. That can actually change a little based on whether it's a franchise or not a franchise.
hmm
Mm-hmm.
Boyd and I have had these franchise conversations where, franchises lead a little bit more towards the absentee ownership side. So you could probably get into those in a little earlier. But at the end of the day, for most that are you're moving up pretty high up the value list. And again, I connect everything to think about it. It's going to have a manager. It's going to have assistant managers. Heck, you might even have, departments at that point. You might have an accounting team and the vicious HR department, kind of thing. But, that's the size companies we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We're not dealing with a company where, everybody knows the owner's name and his name's sometimes on the van.
hmm
But
Interesting.
dollar wise, it's kind of hard because, again, it's based on the systems and people that are in place. But it's probably, 3 million and up where you start seeing some of those
hmm
pieces.
Oh, I thought 1 million. Okay.
Yeah, I'd agree with that because Chip was helping me, Carol, for quite
Mhm.
some time look for something around 1.5, and it was almost all of it was just owner operator, where I'd have to be cleaning windows or something like that, and
Yeah, or
that's not
not
what I want to do.
necessarily, owner operator, but there's some involvement, or again, you're going to throw a hat on and you're going to go and do something, right?
Hmm.
You're going to jump in and help out if somebody doesn't show up, right?
Yes.
And that's a really tough line when you think about it. At what size does a business need to be, for an owner who, let's say, he doesn't have a job, right? To
Hmm.
jumps in and he starts answering the phones one day, or he hops in a truck and go washes windows or pressure washes
Hmm.
a driveway. Um, Heck, there's
Yeah,
some stages where guys love doing that, right? And
that
that
was my
keeps them going.
first experience with the carpet cleaning franchises. As much as I thought I was going to be in the office designing marketing programs all day, all too
Mhm.
often I was on a truck because somebody was sick or something happened. So, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of things people don't realize how much is connected to labor
Hmm.
and systems.
Hmm. Yeah.
And those are hard to tell when you're on a biz buy sell, or you're on the BBF, or you're on one of those websites. You can't always see those
Right.
pieces, right?
Yeah.
But you know it, Boyd. You could check to see how many hours the owner's on there, and that's usually a pretty good telltale sign.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. That absolutely is. Absolutely is. Um, let's talk about funding. How
Yes.
many people that come to you, Chip, are ready to purchase something versus how many get surprised that, oh, I need how much? And then they're scrambling to find their funding. You've sent me a few people who kind of got caught surprised. But how many people come ready versus how many people need some education?
Oh, very minimal come prepared. Very minimal. Yeah. It's hard, right? There's a lot of unknowns in my world. There's a lot that's hard to uncover, and it's not always easy information to grab. Um, and it can be daunting to contact a lender and ask general questions. And as you've known too, one of the things that throws people off, they might have started with a lender and asked a few questions, but once they started going down through the process, things change as you look around. You and I have talked about licensed trades, right? I do a bunch in licensed trades. And again, I'll talk about 7A, and I know you guys aren't doing SBA, but that does
Well,
affect my
we
world
do
quite a bit.
we do a
Okay,
lot of
all right.
SBA. Yeah.
Yeah.
7, 8.
So, right. You're not going to buy an HVAC company if you don't have an HVAC license. And yes, that's a very simple way of saying it. There are ways to get it done.
There are, and I've explored them all.
Right. But it's, people hear the stories of maybe a cash buyer got away with something. Well, that doesn't always work if you're, needing to borrow and you have to take a lending road, and you're now it's almost like they have to adjust themselves based on whatever lender or whatever loan they're going after, and readjust based on the business or type that they're looking at as they move through it. So they might have started out with a few questions, but man, we landed over in left field, and now we're talking about buying a roofing company, and we completely derailed the whole scenario. So yeah, very few have started the process at all. And if they started it, we end up, kind of spinning off into different directions as we go down the hunt, because as you know, it's incredibly difficult to find businesses right now. It's super hard.
Yep, and I've noticed that for sure. Yeah. Well, and I was thinking too, going back to my own funding journey a few years ago, when I finally got a hold of a banker, and she said, "You need how much?" And I said 90,000. She goes, "Oh, that's not worth my time. That's not worth my commission. We can't help you." I was like, "Wow." That was a tough call, but look what it's turned into. So
Exactly.
Yeah, many of our lenders that we deal with, some won't talk to people under 500,000. There's a few that'll be, 250,000. So it's nice that there's other options out there.
Options. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Now, we had a conversation recently, Karol and I, at a Chamber of Commerce breakfast with a gentleman who just recently left the military. Karol, what did he say? And you wanted to ask Chip about it.
Yes, and this one kind of hits close home since being a daughter of military parents. And so he, as U.S. military veteran, was sharing with all of us how hard it was after he left service and having to find a way to provide for himself, for his family, start over. And he expressed it was more difficult and scary for him, actually, trying to find a way to start in the work field instead of just being in combat in Afghanistan, like he shared. And so, do or Transworld offer any kind of career change counseling for military veterans, or do you know who does, to offer something that we can refer to them that can help veterans make their transition? And they have so much to offer, and they just need that.
From an official standpoint, Transworld does not have a program. We do have, I can think of 3 veterans who are business brokers. Mike, Matt, Joe, they all work well with people, and there's a bit of a connection there.
Nice.
Right. One of the other things that I was thinking of is that, I do work with a group in Orlando called the Camaraderie Foundation. They help veterans assimilate, back into the workforce. I'm a mentor for them from time. I'm not doing it this time around, but I've done it a few times in the past. And basically, they connect proteges with a couple of mentors. And I have no military background. I do have a couple of uncles and family members who are military. I cannot relate to them, but I can help them, answer their questions of just what's going on, or how I can, whatever their questions are. Honestly, they're as simple sometimes as just helping them with a resume. But sometimes veterans just need somebody to talk to. So there's some pretty good groups out there. I'll send you guys the information for Anna and the Camaraderie Foundation.
We'd love to post that and share that for sure.
Yes, because they want to be successful civilians and entrepreneurs, and they just need that mentorship and those resources to see how they
There
can.
is a lot of, at least maybe over here in Orlando, but there's a lot of veterans support groups over here. Maybe it's just because I'm involved in the one, I spin off into the other ones. But yeah, no, there's a bunch. It is hard for them. I don't disagree. You're taking essentially lessons that you learned, or traits that you were taught, and it doesn't always fit into a career. Some are simple, right? So, sometimes those guys are working on vehicles, or, helping, work on systems, but sometimes it doesn't translate over.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to ask you next was, are there particular types of companies or careers that vets tend to gravitate to when they become entrepreneurs or even just employees?
Whether it's a vet or whether it's anybody else, I think I've told you this a bunch of times. Stick with what you know. Stick with what you've done in the past, or maybe something you have a passion for.
Yes.
So build off of what you've already done, and kind of, I don't want to say take the simple route, but do what works, right? It's crazy that, you think back, and sometimes military, you think of kind of, I don't want to say general labor type stuff, but grunts and stuff. But man, some of the technological stuff that people are learning nowadays as they come out, there's not one thing that I can think of that comes to mind, just because nowadays sometimes these guys are, computer geniuses by the time they come out of
some legitimately
serving
are.
time.
Yeah. Interesting.
Absolutely.
Hey.
Okay. So, Chris, how old should a company be to prove it is successful, since your experience all these years?
We like to see at least one solid year to be able to prove that system. Obviously, more is better. We like to do things off of 3 years worth of tax returns and 4 years worth of P&Ls. But we can get a pretty good idea in one good year cycle of whether or not you've proven that model that something is going to work. Again, we like to see a little bit more, but year is sort of the minimum. At the end of the day, we've sold a couple that have been a couple of months, but at that point, we're not basing it off of numbers. It's more of an asset sale, and it's here. This thing was started, 2 months ago. The one that I could think of is a convenience store. Literally, it was started up here. It's loaded with, $15,000 worth of product, and throw a number at it. And I know you like to hear that there's more of a science, but sometimes there's not. When we don't have historical data, we go to sort of asset sale numbers, and it's whatever buyer and seller are comfortable with sometimes. But yeah, 1 year plus is what we like to hear and see at a minimum.
Shorter than I would have thought. Okay. So if somebody is watching right now who has a business that they want to sell, where can they learn what they need to start learning about how to prepare the business for sale? Besides calling you, but what other resources could they find to help prepare it for sale?
I actually am, sometimes I'll not always promote our website. And I do it more and more because it has gotten better. But our Transworld site is actually pretty good. I know some sites will kind of be a little biased and things, but we do like to put out some general information out there. I do like, as you know, looking around for businesses, I do like the BBF. Another one to just learn generally is the IBBA. The IBBA is an association that all the brokers in the whole country are a part of. I think there's some pretty good general information there as well. As you and I both got into this because we were searching, we were looking, and I'm a little skeptical sometimes of the information that I see easily out there. But it's hard sometimes to deny the association stuff, right? And again, our website's pretty darn good in the grand scheme of things. It's gotten better with everything. Yeah, for sure.
Good. I'm curious now, so I'm gonna check it out.
Start a business and sell it, Karol.
Yes.
It's a daunting world. It's we'd like to say it's a little mysterious, but it needs to be with how we keep things confidential. And that's kind of what I think causes a lot of headaches for people, is that there is a confidentiality side to what we do and how we share information.
Yeah, well, but it makes sense. You got to protect both parties, and there's some key information that you don't want just floating around out there. So
I joke with my wife that we're sales ninjas. Sometimes we hide in the shadows and then jump out when we need to. But we're one of the only industries that does not use signs, in sales for having essentially we have residential licenses.
Well, interesting. Yeah. You don't see a for sale sign typically out front of a business. So the property,
not
maybe.
One that's not an asset sale.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, I hear the music starting again, Karol. So it tells us our time was up. Chip, thank you. So much information. Appreciate it. The info you have and the help that you've given me twice now, I think you've probably made enough money off me to buy a cup of coffee, maybe two. So you're welcome.
I don't want to do the hourly work on that one, boy.
Yeah, violate minimum wage laws or something. But
no, man, people help me, and I can't do anything but help others at the same time. So
you've helped me twice, and I really appreciate it. So
that's how you know you love what you do. So thank you.
That's right. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Until next time.
Yes.
Karol, if the bank says no, is that the end of the road?
Absolutely not. We have options, so please call Ultra Financial.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks again. Bye.
Thanks, guys.